Gentle little Miss Priscilla is the most, ant-like and perfect of housekeepers, and Miss Anthea is our sovereign lady, before whose radiant beauty Small Porges and I, like true knights, and gallant gentles, do constant homage, and in whose behalf Small Porges and I do stand prepared to wage stern battle, by day or by night." "Indeed!" said Mr. Cassilis, and his smile was even more supercilious than usual. "Yes sir," nodded Bellew, "I do confess me a most fortunate and happy wight, who having wandered hither and yon upon this planet of ours, which is so vast, and so very small, has by the most happy chance found his way hither into Arcady." "And may I enquire how long you intend to lead this Arcadian existence?" "I fear I cannot answer that question until the full of the moon, sir. At present, I grieve to say, I do not know." Mr. Cassilis struck his riding boot a sudden smart rap with his whip, his eyes snapped, and his nostrils dilated as he glanced down into Bellew's imperturbable face. "At least you know, and will perhaps explain, what prompted you to buy all that furniture? You were the only buyer at the sale, I understand." "Who bought anything? Yes," nodded Bellew. "And pray, what was your object, you, a stranger?" "Well," replied Bellew slowly, as he began to fill his pipe, "I bought it because it was there to buy, you know. I bought it because furniture is apt to be rather useful, now and then. I acquired the chairs to sit in, the tables to put things on, and—" "Don't quibble with me, Mr. Bellew!" "I beg your pardon, Mr. Cassilis?" "When I ask a question, sir, I am in the habit of receiving a direct reply." "And when I am asked a question, Mr. Cassilis, I am in the habit of answering it precisely as I please, or not at all." "Mr. Bellew, let me impress upon you, once and for all, that Miss Devine has friends, old, and tried friends, to whom she can always turn for aid in any financial difficulty she may have to encounter; friends who can more than tide over all her difficulties without the interference of strangers, and as one of her oldest friends, I demand to know by what right you force your wholly unnecessary assistance upon her?" "My very good sir," returned Bellew, shaking his head in gentle reproof, "really, you seem to forget that you are not addressing one of your grooms, or footmen, consequently you force me to remind you of the fact. Furthermore—" "That is no answer!" said Mr. Cassilis, his gloved hands tight clenched upon his hunting crop, his whole attitude one of menace. "Furthermore," pursued Bellew placidly, settling the tobacco in his pipe with his thumb, "you can continue to demand, until all's blue, and I should continue to lie here, and smoke, and gaze up at the smiling serenity of heaven." The black brows of Mr. Cassilis met in a sudden frown, he tossed his whip aside, and took a sudden quick stride towards the recumbent Bellew with so evident an intention, that Small Porges shrank instinctively further within the encircling arm. But at that psychic moment, very fortunately for all concerned, there came the sound of a quick, light step, and Anthea stood between them. "Mr. Cassilis! Mr. Bellew!" she exclaimed, her cheeks flushed, and her bosom heaving with the haste she had made, "pray, whatever does this mean?" Bellew rose to his feet, and seeing Cassilis was silent, shook his head and smiled. "Upon my word, I hardly know, Miss Anthea. Our friend Mr. Cassilis seems to have got himself all worked up over the sale, I fancy." "The furniture!" exclaimed Anthea, and stamped her foot with vexation. "That wretched furniture! Of course you explained your object in buying it, Mr. Bellew?" "Well, no, we hadn't got as far as that." Now when he had said this, Anthea's eyes flashed sudden scorn at him, and she curled her lip at him, and turned her back upon him. "Mr. Bellew bought my furniture because he intends to set up housekeeping. He is to be married soon, I believe." "When the moon is at the full," nodded Bellew. "Married!" exclaimed Mr. Cassilis, his frown vanishing as if by magic. "Oh, indeed!" "I am on my way to the hop gardens, if you care to walk with me, Mr. Cassilis?" And with the words, Anthea turned, and, as he watched them walk away together, Bellew noticed upon the face of Mr. Cassilis an expression very like triumph, and in his general air a suggestion of proprietorship that jarred upon him most unpleasantly.
"Why do you frown so, Uncle Porges?"
"I was thinking, nephew."
"Well, I'm thinking too,"
nodded Small Porges, his brows knitted portentously. And thus they sat, Big and Little Porges, frowning in unison at space, for quite a while.
"Are you sure you never told my Auntie Anthea that you were going to marry her?"
enquired Small Porges at last. "Quite sure, comrade, why?"
"Then how did she know you were going to marry her, and settle down?"
"Marry her, and settle down?"
"Yes, at the full of the moon, you know."
"Why really, I don't know, my Porges, unless she guessed it."
"I 'spect she did, she's awful clever at guessing things, but do you know—"
"Well?"
"I'm thinking I don't just like the way she smiled at Mr. Cassilis. I never saw her look at him like that before, as if she were awful glad to see him, you know. So I don't think I'd wait till the full of the moon, if I were you. I think you'd better marry her this afternoon."
"That," said Bellew, clapping him on the shoulder, "is a very admirable idea. I'll mention it to her on the first available opportunity, my Porges." But the opportunity did not come that day, nor the next after that, for it seemed that with the approach of the hop picking, Anthea had no thought, or time, for anything else. Wherefore Bellew smoked many pipes, and, as the days wore on, possessed his soul in patience, which is a most excellent precept to follow, in all things but love. Chapter 19